Quantifying supply chain visibility, resilience, and compliance is the topic of my conversation today with Koray Kose. He is Senior Director Analyst with Gartner. Hi, Koray.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with me. I appreciate it. So let's talk about emerging technology and what role it might play in creating supply chain visibility to the extent that supply chains can determine whether they are in fact compliant with rules about modern day slavery and general supply chain resilience. What are some of the technology pieces we're seeing today that can help us in this effort?
Absolutely. We are looking at emerging technologies like graph technology, blockchain, event stream processing, and also advanced analytics to get insights into sub-tier relationships in a supplier ecosystem and helping companies really to understand first where are the players that are part of their value stream, how are they acting in creating the value, and if that aligns with their, first of all, own ethical standards, but most importantly, with the compliance standards that are exposed.
So this is a real way to put a number on it, to really drill down into it, other than just saying we're compliant. This is a way of determining exactly how that's happening. You mentioned graph technology. Would you please explain to me what that is?
Absolutely. So graph technology is an emerging technology that helps companies to take unstructured data that is not correlated. In ERP systems, you generally work on perfect data matches. So if data doesn't really match 100%, in ERP systems, it doesn't get connected. If you go outside and you look into sub-tier relationships, data generally doesn't connect well. So graph technology is a correlation, statistical-based modeling that helps companies to structure the data, even if it's not a perfect match, and get to a confidence level where they can say, yeah, this is true. And it doesn't need to be a 100% match, it can be 80% match, but that points at least to the direction of their connections in their ecosystem. And that helps companies then to engage and then to investigate further. And with that knowledge and the concatenation with, for example, NGOs that are experts in modern day slavery, for instance, they can create synergies to then eradicate modern day slavery as one of the use cases.
What are some examples of unstructured data that would be relevant to this discussion?
So for instance, unstructured data is a relationship between a supplier and your company, generally based on vendor data master. And that should be a vendor part number or a vendor number, for instance. But when you go into the supplier's environment in tech, they do not necessarily track that own number that they were assigned to with their supplier relationships. So now you have to concatenate the second and third tier with your starting point of your vendor number, and that doesn't work in the outside world. So what you need to do is look at a lot of data points: vendor location, vendor relationships, that is public data, your own data, proprietary data of the emerging technology, and make that story come together. And that story should be at a confidence level with a lot of evidence that is making it appear very clear to you as a picture. It's almost like you're creating a high definition picture of your ecosystem. It's not blurry anymore. Unfortunately, a lot of companies do not have good visibility in supply chain tier 2 and below. In fact, only 5% and less companies have tier 2 visibility.
Beyond tier 1, only
Right.
5%.
Right.
To what extent are we relying on self-reporting by the various vendors and suppliers up those tiers?
Right. So the self-reporting, I would almost say, is a thing of the past. It doesn't protect you. Not knowing does not necessarily give you an excuse in front of the compliance. You can't say, I didn't know, my ethical standards are really not that way, I'm really for livable wages, and I want to eradicate modern day slavery. That's all good. But if you don't take action and you have the excuse that you didn't know, that doesn't work in front of the law.
Yeah, but I have this supplier code of conduct. Isn't that enough? Just to have it on a piece of paper? Not
Again,
enough.
yes, it's important, fundamental for you to express your thoughts and your stand towards a point. That's the supplier code of conduct. But a code of conduct relates to a one-to-one relationship. But what do you do if you go 4 tiers down? Think about material like cobalt, or think about cotton that comes from Xinjiang province, or even, we got a little bit of makeup so we look better on this camera, but mica, for instance, as a shimmer, That comes also from exposure to modern day slavery. So is palm oil, for instance. So when you think about that, it goes into many, many products that we utilize today. And for companies, there's a huge distance between what they are currently worried about, which is their supplier relationship, and the next quarter, and where the legislation looks into. So UFLPA has over $1 billion of goods in 6 months already stopped at the port. And it's rebuttable presumption. So basically, you're guilty. You're not innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty until you're proven innocent. And a key indicator there also is they don't give you 90 days. They give you 30 days to provide the evidence. If it's not there, you're basically proven guilty. And it has penalization, not just the value that you pay as a penalty to the government, but you are excluded from government projects. And as you know, government spending is increasing. And if you're not part of a vendor portfolio that can support needs of the government, that can be a huge impact. In Europe, for instance, there's the Supply Chain Due Diligence Act in Germany, which is significant legislation, and that correlates well with the UFLPA. So it's not just, oh, I'm a US company I need to worry about, oh, I'm a European company I need to worry about. It's a global issue, and legislation is coming across the globe right now
tougher all the
align
time.
on that, from all directions.
You cited blockchain. Is blockchain mature enough and practical enough to serve as a real tool in this effort?
I would say the onus is on the vendors and the solutions. Blockchain is a mature technology, yes, it's around over a decade already. What is, however, the issue with blockchain, I feel still today and walking around today here at the conference, blockchain is not understood. And the education to blockchain and the value of it needs to be a part of your solution. Blockchain is critical to make sure that data is secure and basically not changeable, which is important when you go from tier to tier to tier to tier. So blockchain needs to be fundamentally embedded into visibility. If you don't do that, then it's going to be hard to say, hey, the information that came from tier 5 is still what I hear at tier 2. Because information gets lost, gets changed, the quality of it is deteriorating from tier to tier.
So there's a lot of pieces you're talking about here of technology relating to supply chain risk. Is it all kind of converging and coming together in a coherent way?
I would say yes, because risk isn't looked anymore in silos. It's not just, oh, it's compliance, and then it's a CSR, then it's a performance or quality issue. But companies look at it more holistically because anything can impact your value stream. So once you engage into risk management, now the interest is, I want to engage holistically and comprehensively. And solutions out there that were prior just in a niche, they understand the need to have a broader ability. What that drives in the market nowadays is we're seeing more mergers and acquisitions of companies that kind of go after niche vendors and integrate them so they have vertical capabilities, but also horizontal capabilities. We're also seeing a few larger vendors to really stand out and say, hey, I have almost a full coverage. We don't see yet a one-stop shop there, but we are close to. So when we look back maybe 3 years where we saw coverage maybe just 40-50% of the risk spectrum, now we're maybe close to 80% in one solution. So there's certainly that trend going on. And I think the way private equity and venture capital has supported that influx of cash into the risk solutions market helped to drive that way. And catalysts are absolutely the legislations that are coming.
So I hear you saying that technology is not really the barrier. It sounds like the tools are essentially there. What has to happen is they need to be adopted. We need more realization on the part of companies that they need to do this. Would that be an accurate statement?
That is absolutely accurate. Like I ran a primary research last year, 2021, basically, which is 2 years ago. But when we looked at the implementation of risk technology, it was for mapping itself, less than 11% of companies had it. But when we took the flip side, more than 70% acknowledged the need and were in discussions, implementations for supplier risk technology implementations. So that takes, of course, time. Sales cycles are a bit longer, sometimes 6 months and longer. So now we can see that more companies have embedded technology. Unfortunately, the buyer persona is missing out at points in emerging technology capabilities. So there is risk technology out there, but it's not everything is the same capability. So there are technologies out there that are more traditional. They are looking at ERP environments, so perfect matches. And as we just earlier discussed, perfect matching in an ambiguous supply chain doesn't work well.
Yeah.
You need to have a database that can concatenate data that is literally unstructured.
Thank you so much, Koray, for spending time talking with me about this essential issue. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bob, for having me.
I've been speaking with Koray Kose of Gartner. Thank you very much for watching.